Hello, and thanks for joining me for this review of Twilight Beach by Terry Dowling. In this future or possibly alternative Australia, there is no fossil fuels, and the topography of the country and probably of the world is entirely different. Aboriginal tribes called Abo tribes control all of the interior of Australia. The few non-Aboriginal, mostly white, are called nationals, and they live in a series of residences around the coast. In the absence of fuel, the only way to access the interior is through these huge sand ships which roll the roads of internal Australia. But there are licenses needed, and most captains can't go everywhere if they are nationals. Tom Rynosseros, or Tom Tyson, is one of only 7 coloured captains that have been given a colour by the sentient bell tower posts that control the roads and are thus allowed to go any road, any place, any nation. And into this amazingly lush, picturesque, beautiful scenario of future world, in this book we learn more and more about Tom himself. Tom Rynosseros we learnt from the first book, which I read recently. That one was Rhinoceros by Terry Dowling. I'll link to that review somewhere below. We learnt that Tom, known as Rhinoceros, came out of a madhouse before winning his ship Rhinoceros, in some sort of ship lottery into which very few nationals are allowed to enter, but he got all these entries, he won the ship, and he's been sailing the roads of Australia ever since. He has been given the colour blue by this rogue sentient bell tower, and by this book it's clear that sentience and intelligence, and where tech AI is real and where human reality exists, that seems to be an overarching story plot. But in Twilight Beach specifically, we learn more about Tom. Tom came out of the madhouse of full amnesia, he knew nothing about himself. And in this book we have the story about how he first walked down the road from the madhouse and how he started to come back to himself, and a little background story on how he won his ship, the Rhinoceros. But Terry Dowling does this with a light hand for information. That story is integrated into many others. Twilight Beach probably reads more like a novel than Rhinoceros did, but essentially it is still a whole heap of stories, with the overarching story plot being Tom discovering more about himself. Coming out of this madhouse, which we learn so much more about in this book, it clearly isn't actually for mad people, though it might make people mad. In it, we have these glimpses in which people are kept and driven into or out of their skull by machines constantly talking to them, AI machine dialogue, which has basically robbed Tom entirely of his identity. He comes out thinking he's been there for 50 years. In actual fact, apparently it's possibly been only 3, but there's subjective time as well as real time. In Twilight Beach, as in the previous book, you've got these levels of tech and biotech and, I guess, spirituality that are completely off the wall, never over-explained, but really exciting, and they help to build this world picture which is just amazing. Now, what was the other thing I was going to say? AIs, yes. So AI tech exists and biotech exists, but it's heavily not condoned by the Aboriginal tribes. The Aboriginal tribes' power is astronomical. All the biotech comes from them. All the building of these sand ships come from them. All of this is mystery knowledge, and they have reinvented the Dreamtime into a new Dreamtime. We don't learn too much about how the new Dreamtime differs from the old Dreamtime, but it seems similar in that it's this integrated spiritual way of life, but this modern Dreamtime is backed up by tech. Satellites circle Australia, and if anyone is detected invading the roads or breaking Dreamtime law, they are zapped, and they are zapped finally. Also, the myth of the Kodaicha man has been re-imaged here to be almost the policing force. And they also have clever men. This is also a re-imaging of the shamanistic practices of Aboriginal Australia as we know it from stories. They can lay the bones, but they're also sensitives and they do mind speak. So that's a bit of a background. And really that's background that you would not get any other way than listening to a review, because this is stuff that you learn bit by bit, story by story, piece by piece. Dowling doesn't over-explain, but he gives you a wonderful way of learning in his world, story by story. In Twilight Beach, we have a huge range of stories, and as well as the story about how Tom first walked down the road from the madhouse where he'd possibly been incarcerated, possibly for a crime, we learn a bit more about constructs, and we learn the urgency of his only memories, because he doesn't know what he was doing there, only that it was tribal business that put him there, and thus not something that can be reckoned with or indeed argued with. But he came out with only 3 images in his head: a ship, a star, and a woman's face. And those 3 themes run throughout this book to the last story, which is the most desperate and the most enticing and the most involving, and it's called Ship's Eye. And the ship in question, of course, is the Rhinoceros. We have these cute little images running throughout. The artwork is once again, or at least the cover is done by Nick Stathopoulos. And the imagery of the cover blends so well with the imagery of the book. Those lush colours are reflected in Terry Dowling's descriptions of the sky, of the dark cloaks that people wear in the desert. It's matched by the incredibly evocative language he uses, which is what makes these books absolutely delightful. For example, in one story, Road Song, the first paragraph reads, "Such is the power of names that when Lady Ty and Lady T met on the deck in the first hour out of Port Allure, it was with all the force of destiny, of precise and personal significance for both women." That is the style of writing. It's very much not pulp science fiction, it is very literary. When I've read a lot of pulp sci-fi or old sci-fi and I really need to get something where the language itself is the beauty, I would normally turn to literature. But Terry Dowling fills all of those genre, I suppose, entirely adequately. Now, Terry Dowling, by the way, an Australian author, and he is still alive, and I believe he's still writing. He certainly is still publishing. He recently published The Complete Rhinoceros, available from PS Publishing in the UK. I believe Stephen on the Outlaw Bookseller recently showcased it. I was drooling. I'm not sure I can afford it, but I want it. Now, this publishing confused me in combination with the way it's listed on Goodreads. So my understanding has always been that Rhinoceros was a trilogy from Rhinoceros to Twilight Beach, the second one, to Rinomon, the last one, which I only recently acquired and I'm excited about it. Apparently it was a quartet. Rhinoceros is indeed book 1. Book 2 was Blue Tyson, which I feel that I've probably never owned because I wouldn't have let go of it, and I don't think I've ever read. I did read some Terry Dowling's originally from the library when I couldn't get my own copies, but I don't think I've ever read that second one. With the Complete Rhinoceros, as it's being published in a 3-volume trade paperback edition or in hardcover set, probably, I haven't checked out the website yet. Volumes, it sounds like it's a 3-volume thing, but Goodreads says it was 4 volumes. I haven't quite figured out the ins and outs of it. I really want to max out my credit card getting new ones, but I probably won't. Because really with these ones, it is the reading pleasure that is the main thing for me. And it is pure pleasure to read these books. So among the mysterious events, we go to places like Totem Rule, where people go specifically to dream. And the dreams can become so intense and so involved that some people emerge from their dream bearing physical stigmata. And some people are so intoxicated by these dreams that they never leave and spend the rest of their life there. We learn a little bit more about the interior. And this world almost seems fantasy. It is definitely fantastical to read, but while it is clearly science fiction and it has the science, there's so much that is fantastical about the world building and so much that is understated. And it's clearly many things you yourself just don't know about that world and have to learn through reading. But as it comes on, as the stories come on, it's also clear that the people who live in this world, many of them, are equally in the dark, and it's a world of dark mythology and beliefs. Excuse me. Well, Bird is acquired. Come on, Bird. No? Okay, Bird has acquired me. Okay, so there's this beautiful world. The one thing that I'm going to say that Terry Dowling doesn't do, and I just realised when a native bird landed on my head, he isn't heavily into the flora and fauna in the way that I would be if I was writing an alternative Australia, which I could never write anything as good as this. But he does have strange shapes. So, for example, he talks a lot about land coral. In one of the later stories where we see Tom walking down the road just out of the madhouse, not yet acquiring his ship, we hear about this land coral which we've met in the past before. It sounds like, it's also called Specia, and it's given a Latin name, so italicized as Philoxmena. It's hard to tell what this is. Is it a real coral? It sounds geological. I'd say it's invented. I can't see that it's based on any sort of reality. But aside from these strange, fantastical types of ecology, geology, maybe it's even zoology, who knows? We don't really see a lot of those aspects. It is... Have I mentioned how gorgeous it is to read? I think I have. There is another part here that I want to read if I can find it. John shut off the set, so just the wind remained, and the shutters as they rattled, and the deepening burgundy light making even the hardest edges look velvet soft, as indistinct as his knowledge of what really was. And that is a beautiful epilogue for Twilight Beach. It is that beautiful, it is that mysterious, it is absolutely gorgeous, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. So, I can't go on straight away to the last one, but I will be reading the last one before too long. I've enjoyed these ones so much that I just really can't resist. Thank you for watching this short review of an immensely talented author and an immensely intriguing series of Rynosseros by Terry Dowling. Thank you for watching. Read good books.